久しぶりに実に10年ぶりに 0.5 秒だけ時を止められたぜ。スタープラチナザワールド。時は動き出す。0.5 秒だけ時を止められたぜ。
Alright, so here's a re-review for Star Platinum the World, mostly because a while back I uploaded a video called Star Platinum the World is Competitively Awful. In that video, I basically said that all the moves are parryable, and because of that, it's almost worthless against anyone worth their weight that's even remotely good at the game. That video is completely wrong, and anyone who watched it and believed me, I apologize because, well, it's wrong. I don't think it's any secret by now that Star Platinum the World is ridiculously powerful. Way too powerful. It quite literally has the potential of eclipsing out like 80% of the stands in the entire game just via aura kicks to time stop alone. If you don't have time stop resistance and you're fighting against Star Platinum the World, if they know what they're doing, you lose. That's not an exaggeration, it's just straight up. Any character in a game that has such a ridiculous matchup spread of unlosable matchups like Star Platinum the World does is almost always top tier, and Star Platinum the World is certainly one of those stands. In this review, I'm hoping to retread the steps that I had in that video and talk about the new things that I've learned since then, so that you can get a better idea of exactly why this stand is as ridiculous as it is, and how it certainly is competitively sound if you want to try to use it that way. Anyways, that's what I got for this intro section, so let's jump into the moveset and we'll talk about all the moves in depth. So kicking off with Star Platinum the World's moveset, I'll start with what I almost always start with, which is the overall stand speed. Star Platinum the World, thoroughly unsurprisingly, has fast stand speed, which means your M1 punches come out in quick succession one after another, and your stand barrage has plenty of hits during it. The stand speed is also complemented by having a relatively high destructive power, your M1's dealing 10.1 damage a hit and your barrage being 1.7. This puts base Star Platinum the World's destructive power higher than that of stands like Star Platinum, the World, or King Crimson. As for actual moves, we'll be starting with hands down Star Platinum the World's worst move, which is Platinum Slam. You can think of Platinum Slam as effectively just a worse version of your stand barrage finisher. It shares all the same properties. It's uncancelable if you get hit, it can be parried, and it will block break if it's not parried successfully. The reason why it's so bad and worse than your stand barrage finisher is it has a seriously long windup and is incredibly obvious when you're going for it, effectively leading it to be a free parry for most players. This gets even more compounded when you take into consideration that it only does 4 more damage than your stand barrage finisher. That's right, the stand barrage finisher does 20 damage and the Platinum Slam does 24. The takeaway here is if I were you, I would not unlock Platinum Slam. The next move to talk about is Skull Crusher. This is another move that if you throw out willy-nilly is going to get parried over and over again and is all but worthless. It does have some uses though, but we'll get there. The way the move functions is simple. You point the cursor over someone, you hit the key, and it will stop them in place, you'll teleport behind them, and you'll hit them. The attack bypasses blocks, but it is able to be perfect blocked, and it's also cancelable if you get hit before it comes out. The parry window for this move is really easy to hit, and so most people are going to parry it every single time. The only reason that this move has any utility is because there's a lot of bad players on YBA that won't perfect block this move, so if you run into them, it's really just free damage, as well as the fact that for some reason you're able to use this move in time stop. This means that if you have time stopped and you need to close the gap, you can use Skull Crusher. There's some other niche applications, but we'll talk about that strategies rather than here. I feel like there's probably not much reason to cover it, but your time stop is a time stop. It stops time, you can do whatever you want in that stop time, and if the enemy doesn't have TS resist, then they automatically die. Moving right along, one of Star Platinum the World's best moves, hands down, has to be aura kicks. This move comes out unreactably fast, does a considerable amount of damage, and the final hit stand crashes. The move can't be canceled if you get hit, and the final hit does block break. However, if your opponent isn't human or they get lucky, you are able to but parry the first hit when this move is first activated. The next move to talk about is time skip. Time skip is pretty simple. You point your cursor somewhere, you press the time skip key, and you'll be teleported there instantly. It's not something a lot of people think about, but it is arguably the best movement tool in the entire game, so it's definitely nice to have, especially with a stand like Star Platinum the World that relies so heavily on mouse ones. Almost wrapping things up, we'll be talking about Star Platinum the World's Awakening. This move got a buff for some reason that it didn't need. Star Platinum the World's Awakening, when activated, refills a small portion of your health, decreases the amount of damage dealt to you, as well as increasing the amount of damage that you deal to others, as well as the bonus effect of automatically parrying any parryable attack if you have your guard up. And of course, finally, the last move on the list, the funny beatdown. Star Platinum the World's Aura Beatdown is really loud, and when you use it, you basically just can't hear anything, which is pretty great. It also does way too much damage in one move, and comes out incredibly fast, making it basically unable to be reacted to. So aside from trying to deafen your opponents by using aura beatdowns so that they can't hear anything that's going on, there are actually quite a few strategies that you can employ with Star Platinum the World that'll make your gameplay a little bit better. And hands down, the most important thing that you need to realize when you pick Star Platinum the World is that under no circumstances, basically ever, in a 1 versus 1 scenario, should you ever be using Skull Crusher or Platinum Slam. The second that you use either of these moves, you are actively signaling to the other player that they can beat you for free because you're just going to hand them free combos when you inevitably get parried. As I've said already, Platinum Slam is a really horrible move, and if you're ever going to use it, well, you shouldn't. Just don't get Platinum Slam. Step number 1 of Star Platinum the World, don't buy Platinum Slam. And Skull Crusher you should basically only ever be using in Time Stop, and you honestly should be trying to avoid using it in Time Stop when you can, because it means at the end of the Time Stop the opponent will ragdoll and you can't combo them. But speaking of Time Stops and comboing, I suppose we should just get to that right away. Star Platinum the World completely nullifies 79% of the stands in YBA, and yes, I did the math, you can go do it too. If you run into somebody that does not have Time Stop resistance, you just need to land an Aura Kicks and you've taken their stock, or at least done 80 to 90% of their health. Why does this work? Well, Aura Kick stand crashes and also puts the opponent right in front of you. There's not enough time for the opponent to stand up and resummon their stand while you're doing the animation for time stop. So in other words, you can time stop them and then walk over, M1 them a bunch, and then as soon as the time stop is about to end and you start hearing the voice line for it to end, you need to use a stun. If you successfully pull this off, right as soon as the time stop ends, the enemy will be stunned and you'll be able to walk over and barrage them for free. That adds on even more damage. And at this point, the opponent's probably dead. But if they're not dead, then you can just spam M1s, beat down, something like that. So when it comes to non-TS resist, I feel like that's all I need to say. If you're fighting against non-TS resist, then just stall them out until you get time stop, and then you instantly kill them and you win. It should be noted that under no circumstances should you basically ever be using your time stop to time stop non-TS resist stands without using Aura Kicks first. All you're really doing by doing that is allowing the person to potentially jump, which ruins your momentum, or use some sort of move to escape it, like Cream's Dimension Hop or King Crimson's Time Erase. The world's cooldown is pretty significant, and so if you just throw it out without using Aura Kicks first, you're doing nothing but hurting yourself. So don't do that. Moving on to fighting players that have TS resist, this is where things get a little complicated. I've already talked about how most of your moveset is worthless, so that means that you're relying on Aura Kicks, your M1s, time skip, and beatdown. The rest of your moves you should almost completely forget about. When it comes to damage, hands down the most damage that you're going to get with Star Platinum the World is your mouse 1. And having the time skip is great for that because it means you can time skip right on top of them and mash your M1s out. Because your destructive power is so high, you are able to contest, if not out-damage, a lot of the other stands that have TS resist. Stands like Gold Experience Requiem, Sea Moon, The World, and Star Platinum will all lose if you just spam M1s and hit just as many, if not more, than they do. As for how you should be using your beatdown, it can be noted that beatdown can still be confirmed off of Eye Gouge, but is no longer confirmable off of a Zoom Punch. This was a severe nerf to Haman and makes it so that Haman Star Platinum the World, while still being extremely powerful, powerful is likely not as good as boxing now. Eye Gouge is a pretty difficult stun to land though, and a lot of the time you'll just get barraged because people know that the beatdown's likely coming, but Mastered Eye Gouge into beatdown is a true combo. As for when to land beatdowns, most of the time you'll be landing your beatdowns off of parries or block breaks, whether that be using your spec moves to get a block break or to punish an overzealous player who threw out a parryable move and figured that you wouldn't parry it. The other big way to land it, which is the most common that you'll probably get if you know what you're doing, is the barrage to beatdown. You see this all the time with beatdown stands, but the real way you should be doing it isn't necessarily the way that people do it now. The most common way that I see people barrage to beatdown is they barrage and then immediately use the beatdown right afterwards. If you do this, better players are gonna catch on and they're just gonna hold block after your barrage, and if they're holding block, then your beatdown will get auto parried because of the buffer system. Hands down, the best way to confirm your beatdown is to barrage and then immediately hold block. By holding block, you're basically forcing your opponent to pick an option, and most of the time, they're going to barrage you back. After they've barraged you back, you can either try to dash and use a beatdown, which is a little bit easier of a timing if you dash out and then use the beatdown, or the more difficult timing is to just let go and then immediately beat down. I would say 95% of players that you're going to run into are never going to be able to adapt to this strategy, and even after watching this video, they still probably won't adapt to this strategy. And the very last way to land beatdown, because it's so fast, is to simply whiff punish your opponent. There's a lot of moves in this game that have a pretty considerable end lag if they miss. Most notably is the Haman and boxing spec stuns. If someone goes for a Scarlet Overdrive, a Jawbreaker, a Zoom Punch, or an Eye Gouge, all of those have a ton of lag if they miss, and it's more than enough for you to land a beatdown. So if you block or see someone miss one of those attacks, you can go in and beat down them for free. Finally, the last thing to note about fighting TS resist stands is because of Skull Crusher, your time stop isn't actually totally worthless. The way Skull Crusher functions as a move is that when you actually hit it on an opponent, before they take damage, they're stunned in place for a minute and they can't move. During this time, their TS resist is slowly running down. Since you can use Skull Crusher in time stop, after you've actually used the time stop, if you use Skull Crusher, you almost half their TS resist even if they parry the move. And if they don't parry the move, then as soon as they're standing up from it, you can immediately barrage, and since enemies can't barrage back in time stop, you just barrage them until their TS resist is gone, and then you get the damage. Usually the best way to go about this is to aura kick them so that their stand is away, so they're worried about trying to summon the stand, then time stop, which really gets them in a panic, and then you go for the Skull Crusher to barrage. It's by no rights a true combo, and you can absolutely get out of it if you manage to parry the Skull Crusher or just walk backwards, but it is going to work on a lot of people, and it's a pretty good way to get some free damage. After talking about that though, I don't think there's too much else that I have to say on strategies for Star Platinum the World. It is pretty self-explanatory. I guess I should mention that your Awakening exists. You can use it to regain some of your health, and you can honestly basically just use it whenever, and if you get a beatdown while you're awakened, the damage is increased, so there's almost no reason not to go for beatdown if you're awakened. But it also means that people are likely anticipating a beatdown every time you awaken, so that's something to be considered. Anyways, that's what I got for the strategy section. So next up, we're going to jump into Counterplay, and I'll talk about what you can do against Star Platinum the World. Don't play 30 of the 38 stands in the game? Guess that wraps that up. So in conclusion, when it comes down to it, Star Platinum the World is a really powerful Wait, you thought that was a joke? You thought I was kidding when the Counterplay was just... No, I'm not kidding. Just don't play those stands. If you do, you'll lose. Anyways, as I was saying, Star Platinum the World is a really powerful... You're not gonna let me get away with this, are you? Alright, fine. I'll talk Counterplay. When it comes to trying to counter Star Platinum the World, if you don't have time stop resistance, I'm not kidding when I say you just lose. In theory, you should never win. And if going up against a good player, you will never win. In these scenarios, your best bet is to try to throw projectiles and just stay out of their range if you can, considering that Star Platinum the World does not have any projectiles. Because if they hit you with aura kicks at any point during the match, you're dead. I wish there was more I could tell you if you don't have TS resist, but really, that's it. If they hit you with aura kicks, your game ends. That's really all I got for you on that front. If you do have time stop resistance though, you do have a few options, because playing against Star Platinum of the World then gets a whole lot easier. When you've got time stop resistance, the biggest things to consider are the beatdown and the awakening. In higher level Star Platinum of the World matches, basically all the damage is always going to come from M1s and beatdowns. The M1s can sometimes be pretty much unavoidable since you have to get damage yourself, but the beatdown can be, but a lot of that comes down to experience and expecting when the beatdown's going to be coming. I would almost say when playing against Star Platinum of the World, you need to just stay away from your F key unless you know you're going to get a parry on something, because getting block broken is guaranteeing that you're going to get beat down. So if you're getting stuck in a combo or something, odds are you're just wanting to tank the damage at that point instead of trying to block and risking getting block broken, because like I said, if you're block broken, you're getting beat down, and that's a bunch of damage that they're gonna get on you for hitting one move. As for the awakening, this is where you just need to play it smart, play lame, and run away. I know people don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. If a Star Platinum of the World awakens, don't fight them. The exact thing that Star Platinum of the World players want you to do when they're awakened is to run at them without a plan and have it so that they're able to damage trade you, and they'll win that damage trade. They take less damage and do more damage. When a Star Platinum of the World's awakened, they win interactions by just barraging first. So seriously, I mean it when I say that when they awaken, you just should not engage. Run away, run circles around them, be a coward. If you're struggling with Star Platinum of the World, odds are it's because you're going in without a game plan and you're getting hit by stupid options. That doesn't necessarily mean that's 100% the case, but a lot of the time, that's how it goes. Play it smart, have time stop resistance, and you can come out on top against this stand. That's going to wrap things up on Counterplay though. Let's jump into the conclusion for real this time, and I'll just talk about my closing thoughts. So as for my closing thoughts about Star Platinum the World, honestly, I know a lot of it comes down to time stop being a serious problem right now, and that's not really a new thing. That's been a thing that's been a problem forever, and I've made like 8 videos on it, and I'll probably make even more. So in that respect, things probably won't be changing anytime soon. But I don't think that all of Star Platinum the World's problems are all based around time stop, because there are some other stupid things that don't really make any sense. Hands down, the biggest of those things is the awakening. I'm gonna level with you here. Star Platinum the World does not have any reason to have an awakening, really at all. I don't know why it's even here. I guess they just ran out of ideas as to what they should have the moveset for, and they were like, yeah, we'll just tack an awakening on. It doesn't make sense, and it really just shouldn't exist. I would say, if anything, replace the awakening with a different move, because the awakening, we can talk about how you would balance the awakening, remove the damage increase, that kind of stuff, but it really just shouldn't be there to begin with. And the other thing, which is the elephant in the room that we always seem to talk about, is the beatdown. It does too much damage, it takes too long, it's too loud. You know, you've heard it 100,000 times, so I don't really need to say it 100,000 more. Star Platinum the World having a beatdown is fine. If the beatdown didn't take 3 years and didn't do a ludicrous amount of damage if buffed by Haman and the Awakening, then it'd be fine. I think that all the beatdowns in the game should abide by the true damage aspect that the World Over Heaven has. That way we keep things consistent across the board, and we don't have any instances where beatdowns do no damage, and we also don't have any other instances where beatdowns do way too much damage. On that front, completely non sequitur, but Uzu, please for the love of God make it so that GE's last hit isn't a block break anymore. You get less damage because of that, and it's really infuriating. GE needs help. This is a Star Platinum the World video, but GE needs help, and I'm really tired of good players just blocking at the end of it and getting hit by like one bird and then being like, yep, you lose all your damage. But anyways, now that I'm moving on to other stands that I'm talking about, I should probably wrap things up here, because I don't have too much else to say. Skull Crusher shouldn't be able to be used in TS, nothing new there, and that's probably about it. So with the actual video wrapping up here, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the video, don't do those things. I make other content besides YBA, mostly Battlefield related videos, so if you don't normally watch that kind of stuff and you're bored after this, I'll link one at the end of the video as well as one in the description, so you can go check those out if you want. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.